We've all been there. You gave your heart, raw, honest, wide open, and he took it and crushed it like it was nothing. He lied. He left. He replaced you like you were disposable. And now you're left questioning everything, your worth, your beauty, your value. But I'm here to tell you something no one else will. You don't need to beg, cry, or chase. You don't even need to hate him. What you need is to rebuild yourself so powerfully that the version of he broke can't even look the new you in the eye. This isn't about revenge. This is about reclaiming power. Because when he breaks your heart, you don't break down, you break through. And when you do, you won't need to break his agog. It'll crack on its own when it sees the woman you've become. Bore. When someone breaks your heart, the instinct for many is to strike back, to hurt them the way they hurt you, to make them feel the loss, the betrayal, the emptiness that they left behind. But here's the truth most people won't tell you: the real win isn't in breaking someone else. It's in becoming someone so strong, so elevated, so complete, that they no longer even have access to you. You don't need to break him. You need to build you. That might sound cliché in a world that tells us to get even and show them what they lost. But the problem with revenge is it keeps you emotionally tied to the person who wounded you. As long as you're focused on getting back at him, you're still living your life around him. He's still the center of your story, and haven't you given him enough space in your mind? Enough of your energy, your love, your hope? At some point, you have to stop pouring into the fantasy of who you wanted him to be and start pouring into the reality of who you're becoming. See, when someone breaks you, what they're really doing is handing you a choice. You can either stay broken, orbiting around their actions, or you can use the pain as fuel to rise. That's where true power comes in. Not from ego, but from evolution. From choosing to build a life so full, so aligned with your worth, that you stop even needing their apology or their attention. Your glow up doesn't come from rubbing it in their face. It comes from reaching a level where their opinion no longer defines you. Here's the shifting: you stop asking, why wasn't I enough for him? And you start asking, why was I trying to be enough for someone who never truly saw me? Because when you chase closure from someone who wasn't capable of loving you properly, you're chasing water in a desert. You'll never get the nourishment you need from the same place that dehydrated you. Instead, go where your soul feels fed. Your passions, your friendships, your dreams, your peace. That's where the healing begins. And guess what happens when you do that? When you stop trying to break his ego and instead focus on breaking the limits you once placed on yourself, you become magnetic. Not because you're trying to impress him, not because you want to make him regret it, but because there's nothing more attractive than a person who's chosen themselves. When you move on not with bitterness, but with elegance and elevation, you don't just move past him, you move beyond him. He broke your heart, yes. That was real. That pain was real. But pain doesn't get the final word unless you let it. Your response to that heartbreak will define far more than the heartbreak itself. So don't waste another day trying to play his game. Build your own arena. One where you set the rules, you choose the players, and your worth is non-negotiable. And here's the irony: when you stop trying to break his ego, you will. Because nothing shakes a fragile man more than the woman he couldn't keep, rising without him, happy without him, whole without needing him. So the mission isn't to hurt him, it's to heal you. And in doing that, you become untouchable. When someone you care about deeply chooses to hurt you, whether through betrayal, neglect, or abandonment, it's incredibly easy to internalize that pain as a reflection of your own value. You start to wonder if you weren't good enough, smart enough, pretty enough, fun enough. You replay moments, analyzing every word and decision, trying to figure out what you could have done differently to make him stay, to make him choose you, to make him love you the way you deserve. But the harsh reality, and also the freeing truth, is that his decision to hurt you says everything about him and absolutely nothing about your worth. This is where so many people get trapped. They equate rejection with inadequacy. They take someone's inability to love properly as proof that they themselves are unlovable. But love, real love, is not a prize you earn by being perfect. It's something that's offered freely by someone who is emotionally available and ready to give it. If he couldn't love you well, that is a reflection of his capacity, not your value. If he played games, disappeared, or replaced you like didn't matter, it doesn't mean you don't matter. It means he never truly understood what he had. And that's on him. It's hard to remember that when your heart is breaking, it's hard not to see yourself through the lens of his choices. But think about it, Tut. If someone throws away a diamond, does that make the diamond any less valuable? No. It just means the person holding it didn't know how to recognize worth. You are still that diamond. You don't become less because someone failed to treat you right. Your value isn't up for negotiation just because someone didn't show up for you the way you showed up for them. One of the most dangerous things we do after heartbreak is rewrite our identity based on how someone else saw us. We shrink ourselves. We doubt ourselves. We walk away from who we were, thinking that maybe if we were just less needy, less emotional, less intense, maybe he would have stayed. But that's not growth. That's self-abandonment. And no relationship is worth abandoning who you are. If someone couldn't hold space for your heart, your dreams, your truth, that's not your cue to become smaller. That's your cue to find someone who can meet you where you are. You have to remember that the right person doesn't leave you confused. The right person doesn't make you feel like you have to fight for scraps of affection. And most importantly, the right person doesn't make you question your worth. So if someone did, then the real issue isn't your value. It's their vision. They couldn't see clearly. And again, that's not your fault. That's their limitation. So now it's your job to separate your identity from that story. You are not someone who got left. You are someone who was brave enough to love. You are not someone who wasn't good enough. You are someone who was too much for someone who wasn't ready. You are not broken. You are bruised, maybe, but not broken. And those bruises will heal. What you build from here will become the strongest version of you yet. You don't need to get him back to prove your worth. You don't need to be chosen by someone who already passed on you to feel valid. You need to remember that your worth existed long before he entered the picture, and it will continue long after he fades from it. What he did reflects his values, not yours. What you do next, that's where your true power lies. There's a point after heartbreak where you want to say everything. You want to scream, to call him out, to make sure he knows what he did and how deeply he hurt you. You want to get that last word in, to say the thing that stings, to reclaim some sense of control. But here's the truth. When you've really stepped into your power, you realize that silence often speaks louder than anything you could say. Of your absence, you don't need to explain yourself to someone who already showed they weren't listening. You don't need to beg for understanding from someone who was never trying to understand you. Your absence, your composure, your peace, those are far more impactful than any angry message or emotional outburst could ever be. We live in a world that tells us if we're quiet, we're weak. That silence means surrender. But real silence, the kind that comes from strength, not suppression, is one of the most powerful responses there is. When you choose not to engage, not to react, not to validate someone's ego with your pain, you're not letting them win. You're letting yourself win because you're taking your power back from the situation. You're saying, I don't need to convince you of my worth. I already know it. When someone breaks your heart, they often expect a reaction. They expect drama, begging, anger. That reaction feeds their ego. It confirms their control. They get to feel important because they still have an emotional grip on you. So when you go quiet, when you step away, when you live your life without looking back, it shakes them. Because your silence says, you are no longer relevant to my peace. And that's louder than any confrontation. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's not about suppressing your emotions or acting like you're unaffected. You're allowed to hurt. You're allowed to cry. You're allowed to feel the sting of disappointment. But the difference is, you're choosing to feel those things in a space that protects your dignity. You're not performing your pain for someone who won't do anything with it. You're healing privately, not handing your vulnerability back to the person who mishandled it the first time. There's a deep kind of confidence that comes from walking away quietly. It's the kind of confidence that says, I trust myself enough to not need closure from you. I know who I am without your validation. When you stop chasing explanations and start focusing on elevation, you naturally rise above the chaos. You stop letting someone else write the final chapter of your story. You pick up the pen and write a better one. And here's the irony. The moment you go silent is often when they start to notice. When you're no longer reacting, no longer chasing, no longer visible in their world, it creates a void. That void speaks volumes. Suddenly, the power dynamic shifts. Suddenly, they start wondering what you're up to, why you're not reaching out if you've moved on. But by that point, you won't be doing it to provoke a reaction. You'll be doing it because peace tastes better than attention ever did. It's not about gusting or playing games. It's about making a choice to protect your energy, to refuse to re-enter a cycle that already proved itself toxic. Silence doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you care too much about yourself to keep showing up for someone who doesn't. And when you choose that silence, not out of pride but out of power, you send the clearest message of all. You've outgrown the need to be heard by someone who never truly saw you. After heartbreak, it's tempting to try and fix the pain by proving something. Proving you're still desirable, still wanted, still able to be loved. For a lot of people, that proof comes in the form of a rebound. You meet someone new, someone who shows you attention, maybe even admiration, and for a little while it feels like relief. It feels like validation. It feels like, see, I'm still worthy. But here's the uncomfortable true thing. Using someone else to soothe the wound left by another almost always delays your healing. Because when you chase validation instead of self-worth, you might feel better temporarily, but you're still building your recovery on someone else's presence, not your own foundation. The first instinct after rejection is to look outward for proof that you're still valuable. It's a human response. You want to feel wanted again, seen again, special again. And while connection can be healing, there's a difference between finding someone because you're ready to share your peace and finding someone because you're desperate to escape your pain. If your goal is to show him you've moved on by rushing into someone else's arms, you're still centering your actions around him. You're still living in reaction, not in freedom. This is why upgrading, instead of rebounding, is so powerful. And by upgrade, it's not just about finding a more attractive partner or someone with better manners. It's about upgrading your life, your standards, your habits, your boundaries. It's about doing the work that makes you proud of the person you're becoming. That kind of growth isn't glamorous at first. It's quiet. It's those early mornings where you choose discipline over distraction. It's those solo nights where you face your loneliness instead of covering it up with someone temporary. It's choosing to build a life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good from the outside. When you heal from the inside out, your attraction changes. You stop being drawn to people who feed your ego and start aligning with people who feed your soul. You're no longer trying to replace the person who hurt you. You're too busy becoming someone who wouldn't tolerate that kind of treatment in the first place. That's the real upgrade. It's not a prettier face or a more successful partner. It's a higher version of you, living from your standards, not your scars. And make no mistake, this kind of growth gets noticed. Not always right away, not always by the person who hurt you, but by the world. People can feel when someone is no longer desperate to be loved but grounded in self-love. That energy is magnetic. It pulls in experiences, people, and opportunities that match your new level. And it does something even more important. It breaks the cycle. You stop repeating old patterns because you've stopped trying to heal through other people. You've become your own source of love, validation, and peace. So when the urge comes to rush into someone new just to quiet the pain, pause. Ask yourself, is this love or is this distraction? Am I choosing this person or am I using them? Because the deepest kind of confidence is being okay with your own company until someone truly worthy comes along. And they will. But they'll come to a version of you that's whole, not desperate. They'll meet someone who isn't proving anything to an ex, but living proof of what it looks like to turn pain into power. You don't need to rebound to feel better. You need to rise. You need to heal in a way that lasts. Because when you do, love will find you. Not because you're looking for a replacement, but because you've finally stopped needing one. Pain can be a brutal teacher, but it's also one of the most powerful forms of energy you'll ever experience. If you know how to use it. After someone breaks your heart, it's natural to feel consumed by the emotions sadness, confusion, anger, betrayal. Those feelings feel like they're drowning you, and at first, you think the only way out is to wait until they pass. But waiting won't save you. What saves you is turning that emotion into motion, taking everything you feel and using it to build something better, stronger, and more aligned with the life you actually deserve. When someone breaks you, they often leave a mess behind. Questions unanswered, wounds open, your self-esteem shaken. And it's easy to sit in that, to wallow, to let it break you down completely. But here's the thing, you're already hurting. So if you're going to be in pain, why not let it mean something? Why not use it? Why not let it push you into a version of yourself that you might have never met otherwise? Every tear you shed is energy. Every sleepless night, every moment you think of him and wonder what went wrong, that's fuel. You can sit in that energy and let it turn into bitterness, or you can use it to light a fire. You can take all the feelings he left you with and convert them into power. Go to the gym and lift it out. Wake up early and pour it into your goals. Take that heartbreak and write, create, hustle, grow. You don't have to do something dramatic or loud. Just be consistent. Let your pain become the starting point, not the end. This is the secret a lot of people never learning. Most of the biggest transformations in life are born from a moment of devastation. Rock bottom clears the ground for something new to rise. When someone walks away or hurts you, they unknowingly hand you the blueprint for who not to be with, what not to accept, and who you might become if you finally start choosing yourself. You get to deciding, is this where I stay stuck? Or is this where I start becoming? Channeling your pain into growth isn't about pretending you're okay. It's about using the truth of your emotions as a launch pad. It's saying, I don't feel good right now, but I won't let this be wasted. You're taking something that tried to break you and making it the reason you rise. That's powerful. That's transformational. And that's yours. It might not be fast. It might not feel glamorous. But it's real. Every small action you take to rebuild yourself adds up. Every day you choose to focus on you instead of him is a win. You'll wake up one morning and realize you haven't thought about him in days. You'll catch a glimpse of yourself and see strength in your own eyes that didn't exist before. That's not accidental. That's because you chose to do something with your pain instead of letting it define you. A heartbreak can be the beginning of the best chapter of your life, if you let it. Not because it didn't hurt, but because you didn't let it stop you. You didn't numb it away, you didn't shove it down, and you didn't collapse under the weight of it. You carried it, you walked with it, and eventually you grew past it. Emotion is powerful, but motion is where healing happens. Every time you move forward, even if it's just one step, you reclaim a part of yourself that he tried to dim. And eventually, you'll realize he broke your heart, but he also sparked the version of you that no longer settles. And that version, she's unstoppable. After heartbreak, it's easy to think the opposite of love is hate. You might feel the urge to lash out, to prove that you no longer care by showing anger or resentment. But hate still requires energy, still keeps you emotionally tied to that person. It still gives them space in your head and heart. The real opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. It's that moment when you no longer flinch, when their name comes up, when their posts don't sting, when your peace no longer depends on their absence or presence. That's when you know you've truly healed. That's when you've really moved on. And ironically, that's what shakes someone's ego more than any argument or emotional outburst ever could. Indifference doesn't come overnight. It's earned. It's built slowly through self-respect, through choosing yourself over and over, even on the days when your heart still aches. It's the quiet result of refusing to chase closure from someone who never valued your voice in the first place. Because the moment you stop reacting, you stop playing their game, they don't get to feel important anymore through your pain. They don't get to know they still hold power just because you still care enough to be angry. When someone breaks your heart, the natural desire is to make them see what they've done. You want them to feel it. You want them to regret it. But the more energy you pour into being seen, the more you hand over your power. The irony is, the moment they start to regret, if they ever do, is usually the moment you no longer need them to. Because your life has moved on. You've grown. You've filled the spaces they left empty with things that are real, lasting, and entirely your own. That's what indifference is. It's not coldness. It's not pretending. It's peace. True peace. The kind that isn't shaken by a message or a memory. The kind that comes from doing the work. Grieving, reflecting, rebuilding. And finally getting to a place where their validation is irrelevant to your happiness. You no longer need them to say, "I'm sorry," to feel worthy. You no longer need them to come back to feel loved. You've given those things to yourself. That's what real freedom looks like. And from their perspective, that's the ego blow they never saw coming. Because most people expect anger. They expect bitterness. They expect to be remembered, even if it's through resentment. But what they don't expect is to become a non-factor in your world, to be met with silence, with disinterest, with the quiet dignity of someone who no longer has anything to prove. You don't owe anyone a performance of your pain. You don't owe anyone the satisfaction of watching you struggle to move on. When you stop caring, not out of spite, but because you've healed, you become untouchable. You stop being the version of yourself who waited for the apology, who wondered what could have been, who hoped he might change. That version had a soft heart and good intentions, but she didn't know her worth. Now you do, and knowing your worth means you no longer need to win. You don't need to win the breakup, or the argument, or the emotional tug of war. You've walked off the battlefield altogether. That's the power of indifference. It's not weakness. It's not giving up. It's choosing peace over performance, healing over hurting, freedom over fixation. And once you taste that peace, you won't want anything less. Because no matter how much he hurt you, he no longer has the power to move you. And that's the most powerful place you'll ever stand, the weight of your absence. You don't heal by waiting for an apology. You don't grow by trying to break someone else the way they broke you. And you don't reclaim your power by proving your worth to someone who never valued it to begin with. You rise by remembering who you were before they forgot. You rebuild by turning your heartbreak into fuel. And you become unstoppable the moment you stop needing them to see it. This isn't about revenge. It's about redemption. Your own. It's about turning the pain they caused into the power you own. Because when he breaks your heart, you don't break down. You break through. You break patterns. You break limits. And maybe, yes, you break his ego too. Not by trying, just by becoming everything he couldn't keep. So don't just move on. Move up. And let the life you build in his absence be the loudest thing he never sees coming.